Sometimes the offseason stops whispering and starts pounding the table. The Chargers are staring at 2026 with one brutal question on offense. If Omarion Hampton stays on the field, who is really stopping this Mike McDaniel machine? And at the same time, there is a serious possibility involving a star from Philadelphia, two young centers fighting to stay alive, and an offensive line room that could turn into a ruthless numbers game. Subscribe because today is not some casual ride. This is aggressive roster talk. Let's get right to it because this Omarion Hampton story is not some tiny camp note. This is the kind of thing that could decide whether the Chargers offense becomes a weekly nightmare for the rest of the NFL or gets trapped in that same old almost that makes every fan lose their mind. Mike McDaniel walked into Los Angeles with a loaded menu. Keenan Allen could return, Quentin Johnston should get more consistent chances, Keandre Lambert-Smith and Trey Harris have a real shot at more snaps, Brennan Thompson brings vertical speed, David Njoku changes the middle of the field, and Oronde Gadsden II could still break out if he keeps earning Justin Herbert's trust. Fine, all of that matters. But the player who can make opposing defenses lose their patience before halftime is Hampton, and that is exactly why Nick Baumgartner's question from The Athletic hits so hard. Can he stay healthy? Because talent is not the debate here. Nobody serious looks at Hampton and says he lacks burst, receiving ability, acceleration, scheme fit, or first-round upside. The issue is different. He fractured his left ankle as a rookie, the same ankle he broke back in high school, and that puts real pressure on 2026 whether fans want to hear it or not. But I am not jumping into that lazy narrative that treats Hampton like some damaged project. Slow down. At North Carolina, he went 3 seasons without missing significant time. So yes, there is concern, but there is context too. What happened in 2025 was a season that punched the Chargers' plan right in the mouth. Najee Harris missed training camp with an eye injury from a fireworks accident, then tore his Achilles in Week 3. Hampton went down in Week 5 with a serious ankle injury and did not return until Week 14. That backfield duo that was supposed to turn Greg Roman's offense into power and explosiveness became a chain of emergency fixes. Even then, when Hampton played, he did not fade into the background. In 9 games inside a run game that did not always do him favors, he averaged 4.4 yards per carry. That is not nothing. That is a sign that even in a messy situation, there was a real engine there. Now put that engine in McDaniel's hands with zone, wide zone, running back targets, motion, space, and linebackers getting manipulated. Then the conversation changes from can he help to is the league actually ready if he plays 17 games? Kimani Vidal and Keaton Mitchell can help. I like the depth, but let's not water it down. For the Chargers offense to hit its ceiling, Hampton has to be available. If he stays healthy, Los Angeles gets a weapon that validates the 2025 gamble. If he does not, he goes into year 3 still trying to prove he is the true lead back in this backfield. And for a running back on a rookie deal, lost time gets expensive fast. And if Hampton is the piece that can light up the offense from inside the backfield, the next conversation is about the kind of move that would make the entire NFL look at Los Angeles sideways. A Jay Brown to the Chargers. Yeah, I know. It sounds like one of those conversations that starts as a joke, and then suddenly you realize the logic is sitting right there at the table. Because the Chargers have already been linked to interest in a Brown trade, his situation with the Eagles is not completely dead, and Philadelphia still has a contract problem that could push this whole story into the summer. Now let's talk like adults. Brown is not just some nice piece to make the depth chart look prettier. He is a true number 1 wide receiver, heading toward 29, with 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. That kind of player does not pop up on the radar by accident. He changes coverage. He changes how safeties step before the snap. He changes a defensive coordinator's mood on Tuesday. And I can already hear the pushback. But the Chargers already have Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Trey Harris, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Brennan Thompson. Cool. McConkey is a strong bet. Johnston still makes sense, including financially with the 5th-year option. But the rest is still youth, upside, and players who need to prove it. And when you have Justin Herbert, Mike McDaniel, and a season where this offensive marriage may need to be maximized right now, you do not treat a monster like Brown as an automatic luxury. You check the price and apply pressure to the market. The contract is heavy, 3 years, $96 million, with dates and triggers that have already made trade talks difficult. The Eagles' asking price could also stay high, especially if teams like the Patriots are used to drive up the market. But Los Angeles is sitting on $48.6 million in cap space. The space is there. The real question is whether Ortiz wants to turn flexibility into real aggression. And here is the part that really grabs me. The Chargers have already shown they are feeding McDaniel. They brought in David Njoku. They are shaping the offense around Herbert with more multiplicity. So why stop halfway across the bridge if the market gives you a chance to add a big, physical, dominant, proven body on the outside? Brown would open things up for McConkey inside, take pressure off Johnston, force defenses to pick their poison, and give Herbert a target who does not need perfect separation to win. Is it expensive? Absolutely. Is it simple? Not even close. But a team that wants to move from the conversation of potential into the conversation of fear has to at least stare down this kind of possibility without blinking. But not every aggressive move comes with a massive contract, a national headline, and fans screaming for a trade. Sometimes a franchise shows aggression at the bottom of the roster, when it decides it will not let a position die just because it lacks alternatives. And that is where Jacob Spomer comes in. Rookie out of Fresno State, 6'3", 290 pounds, undrafted, and exactly the type of name a lot of people ignore until training camp starts separating real players from placeholders. Spomer did not have some red carpet path. He came from Brentwood, California, went through Diablo Valley Junior College, lost the 2020 season because of the pandemic, earned all conference recognition in 2021, and then got to Fresno State. In 2022, he started 14 games at left tackle and earned honorable mention All-Mountain West. In 2023, he repeated that honor, started 10 games, but an injury hurt the end of his season and carried into 2024, when he was limited to 5 games and 4 starts. The real turn came before 2025. He moved from tackle to center, and instead of looking overwhelmed, he started all 13 games, became first-team All-Mountain West, and finished as Pro Football Focus's highest-graded center in the conference. That matters because it shows adaptation. It shows intelligence. It shows a guy who did not get trapped by his old label. He changed positions and won. Now let's be as harsh as the NFL is harsh. Size works against him. Limited experience at center works against him. A smaller school profile works against him. That is why he went undrafted. But you know what also matters? Movement. And Spomer moves well. At Fresno State's Pro Day, he ran a 5.06 in the 40, jumped 28 inches in the vertical, hit 9 feet 5 inches in the broad jump, ran a 4.60 short shuttle, and posted a 7.373 cone. Those agility numbers would have ranked near the top of the position at this year's combine. For a center in a Mike McDaniel offense, that is not some cute little detail. That is fit. I am not selling Spomer as a favorite to make the final roster, because that battle is brutal. But as a practice squad candidate, I will take that fight. He seems to have an edge over Josh Kaltenberger as a developmental center because he brings mobility, a recent position switch, and room to grow. McDaniel's Chargers need linemen who can reach space, work angles, and survive on the move. Spomer still has a lot to prove, but that is the beauty of the right UDFAs. Nobody cares in May until the guy starts winning reps in August. And the Spomer story gets even more ruthless when you look at the other side of that same room. Because Josh Kaltenberger looked like he was entering 2026 with a door finally cracked open. He came in with the 2025 UDFA class, spent the entire season on the practice squad, watched the Chargers use Andre James as their backup center, and now James is still on the market. In theory, this should be the perfect moment for Kaltenberger to walk into camp and say, "Now it is my turn." But the NFL does not wait for anyone to organize their own story. While Kaltenberger is trying to climb, the Chargers rebuilt the interior offensive line with several pieces that completely complicate his path. Tyler Biadasz gets a chance to anchor the unit after being released by the Commanders. Cole Strange, who has that developmental connection with Butch Berry from Miami, could compete for a starting job. Jake Slaughter, a rookie making a position change, could also earn major responsibilities. And when you add it all up, the question stops being whether Kaltenberger has value. The question becomes, is there room for a true backup center? That is the kind of detail that decides rosters. Kaltenberger has size, 6'6", 308 pounds. In his final year at Maryland, he posted a 93.1% pass block win rate. That is not camp trash. That is a player with a case to keep developing. But the Chargers are carrying 14 offensive linemen, and in the end, probably only 9 or 10 make the roster. The math starts squeezing. Logan Taylor and Alex Harkey, 2 sixth-round picks, will fight for depth roles. Travis Burke, picked in the 4th round, is also on the board. Kayode Awusika, Branson Taylor, and Ben Cleveland are all walking into camp trying to survive. And here comes the toughest blow for Kaltenberger. The Chargers already have center flexibility inside their starters or starting candidates. If Slaughter loses the left guard battle to Trevor Penning, he almost automatically becomes an internal backup option at center because he played every college snap at that position. If Slaughter wins the job, Cole Strange still has experience there, with 117 snaps at center for the Patriots in 2024. Biadasz is the natural starter, so Los Angeles can look at the roster and think, why spend a spot on a dedicated center if I can carry another guard or tackle with more versatility? It is harsh, but this is how serious teams build rosters. Kaltenberger can do everything right and still see his path blocked by numbers, versatility, and recent investment. Now I want to hear from the Chargers community. Would you rather keep a true backup center as protection for Biadasz, or use that spot on another versatile lineman to survive the season? Because that decision feels small in May, but it becomes massive when an injury hits in the third quarter and nobody has time for pretty improvising. At the end of the day, this is the aggressive snapshot of the Chargers right now. Talent is not enough anymore. Availability is not enough anymore. Promise is not enough anymore. Hampton has to turn health into explosiveness. The A.J. Brown idea shows Los Angeles might still be able to aim for a heavyweight strike for Herbert. Spomer is the kind of hidden bet that can become useful if development hits. Kaltenberger is the warning that even good projects can run out of room when the roster levels up. This is the stage where the team stops asking for patience and starts demanding results. If you want to track that pressure every day, subscribe to the channel. Bolt up!